The Void. The rumors about the Void were spoken of in whispers. No one knew who had first mentioned it, but everyone had heard the stories. An empty place in the world that was never meant to exist, one that had been hidden and forgotten, and it was best left that way. Emma, a young journalist known for her fearless pursuit of the strange and unknown, took it upon herself to discover the truth. She had come across a barely legible ancient map in a crumbling library, its yellowed parchment marked with a single, ominous X and labeled The Void. Her hands had trembled as she traced the ink, but her curiosity burned hotter than her fear. Against the advice of her friends and the warnings of the librarian, she set off, driving into the depths of the forest on an overcast evening. The moon hid behind clouds, the sky so thick and dark it felt like the world was wrapped in velvet. The road grew narrower as the woods thickened, branches pressing in as if trying to halt her advance. After what felt like hours, she reached an unnatural clearing in the heart of the forest. Stepping out of her car, she felt the air grow colder, more oppressive. A deep silence fell, as if the world itself were holding its breath. And then she saw it. A strange, dark cavity in the earth stretched before her, as if something had peeled open the surface and left only darkness. It wasn't just a hole. It seemed to devour light, drawing her gaze with a hypnotic pull that made her chest tighten. The edges were lined with dead grass and twisted roots that seemed to wither in protest. With each step closer, she felt a whispering in the back of her mind, words she couldn't understand, words that felt wrong. Yet she couldn't turn away. She knelt down at the edge, peering over, expecting to see some sign of the bottom. But there was nothing. Just blackness. She dropped a pebble into the void and waited for it to hit something. She counted the seconds in her head, but no sound came. No echo. No bottom. A chill ran through her, and she instinctively took a step back. But as she did, she heard it, the faintest of whispers. At first, she thought it was the wind, but it grew louder, clearer. The voice called her name. Emma? Her blood ran cold. She turned, but there was no one in sight. Just trees, lifeless and still. She took another step back, and the ground beneath her trembled as if trying to pull her closer. The voice grew louder, now a cacophony of overlapping whispers, desperate, pleading. Emma, join us. Emma. She couldn't move. Her feet felt rooted to the ground, her body paralyzed. She felt a pressure in her mind, an overwhelming sensation of dread, as if something ancient and unspeakable were pressing into her thoughts. Visions flashed through her mind, visions of darkness, of lost souls drifting in an endless blackness, their mouths open in silent screams. The whispers became shrieks, cries of agony, but beneath it all was a low, pulsing hum, a beat that made her chest tighten and her pulse quicken. With a burst of desperate energy, she tore herself from the edge, stumbling backward. She scrambled to her feet, and without a second thought, she ran. The forest seemed to close in around her as if trying to trap her, but she pushed through the underbrush, branches scratching at her face and arms. When she finally reached her car, she slammed the door shut, panting. She could still hear the whispers, faintly, as if they had followed her. Her hands shook as she turned the key in the ignition, and she sped away, never looking back. But even miles away from the forest, the whispers lingered, echoing in the back of her mind. At night she could hear them just beyond her door. The visions haunted her dreams, faces drifting endlessly in the darkness, waiting, watching. She never went back to the forest, but sometimes when she closed her eyes, she saw it, the endless void, open and hungry, calling her name, waiting for her to return.